To understand the shockwaves of November 24, 2025, you need to know the man at the center, Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. His journey is not just a political story, but a remarkable American narrative shaped by courage, resilience, and a deep sense of duty. Not just another politician, Kelly's life is a story of service, from flying combat missions in Desert Storm to commanding space shuttle flights for NASA. He's one of the rare Americans who has served his country both in the skies above and in the halls of government, earning respect in two of the nation's most demanding arenas. He's a decorated Navy captain, astronaut, and engineer, with a reputation for calm under pressure and a legacy rooted in military tradition. Kelly's technical expertise and leadership have been tested in life-or-death situations, from the cockpit of a fighter jet to the controls of a spacecraft. After retiring from the Navy and NASA, Kelly and his wife, Gabby Giffords, became leading advocates for gun violence prevention, eventually propelling him into the U.S. Senate in 2020. Their partnership, forged through adversity, has inspired millions and brought a personal touch to national debates. In Congress, Kelly's military background gave him credibility on national security and veterans issues. He quickly became a trusted voice on defense policy, using his experience to bridge the gap between military and civilian perspectives. But now, that very status, as a retired Navy captain, has put him in the crosshairs of the institution he served for decades. The military's expectations of its retired officers are colliding with the realities of political life. The Defense Department is investigating him, blurring the lines between military law and civilian political speech. The case raises questions about loyalty, accountability, and the boundaries of free expression for those who have worn the uniform. This isn't just about one man, it's about the collision of military authority, political power, and constitutional duty. The outcome could set a precedent for generations of public servants. The stakes, the obligations of retired officers versus the freedoms of elected officials, are higher than ever. The nation is watching, and the implications reach far beyond Arizona. The story begins at the intersection of service, law, and democracy, a crossroads where the future of American leadership will be tested. The controversy erupted with a video posted on X, quickly spreading across social media platforms and dominating the news cycle within hours. The video featured 6 Democratic lawmakers, all veterans or former intelligence officers, speaking directly to America's service members. Among them were Senator Mark Kelly, Senator Alyssa Slotkin, and Representatives Jason Crow, Chris Deluzio, Chrissy Houlihan, and Morgan Goodlander. Their collective backgrounds in military and intelligence lent a unique gravity to their message, setting this video apart from typical political statements. Their message was clear and direct. Remember your oath to the Constitution, not to any one leader or political party. They urged service members to uphold the values and laws that define American democracy, even in the face of uncertainty or pressure from above. Senator Kelly emphasized, "Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders." He reminded troops that their ultimate loyalty is to the Constitution, not to individuals in power, and that the rule of law must always prevail. The group warned of a potential crisis, one where the military might be asked to violate the Constitution or act against democratic principles. They cautioned that such a moment could test the very foundation of the armed forces' integrity. Supporters called it a patriotic warning, praising the lawmakers for their courage and foresight. Critics, however, called it dangerous, accusing the lawmakers of encouraging insubordination and undermining civilian control of the military. The video quickly ignited a political firestorm, with both sides claiming the mantle of constitutional duty. Debates raged on television, online, and in the halls of Congress, as the nation grappled with the implications. For some, it was a necessary defense of democracy in troubled times. For others, it was a partisan attack, using the military as a pawn in a larger political struggle. The lawmakers' military backgrounds lent weight to their warning, but also made their message more controversial, as it blurred the lines between military service and political advocacy. The stage was set for a confrontation between Congress, the Pentagon, and the White House, with the nation watching closely to see how leaders would respond. The video was more than a statement. It was a line in the sand, a public challenge to uphold the Constitution above all else. The fallout would be immediate and explosive, setting off a chain reaction that would test the nation's institutions and the resolve of its leaders. The Pentagon's response was swift and severe, sending shockwaves through Washington and the entire nation. Within hours, top officials convened behind closed doors, determined to address what they saw as a direct challenge to military authority. On November 24th, the Defense Department announced a formal investigation, not into all 6 lawmakers involved in the controversy, but focusing solely on Senator Markkelly, a decision that immediately drew intense scrutiny from both the media and the public. Defense Secretary Petehegseth, a Trump loyalist, condemned the video as despicable and reckless. He singled out Kelly, emphasizing that Kelly was the only one among the group still formally retired from the military, and therefore still bound by military law. The Pentagon argued that, unlike the other lawmakers, Kelly remains subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice, or UCMJ, a set of rules that governs the conduct of all current and retired military personnel. The investigation would determine if Kelly's participation in the video crossed a legal line, specifically, whether it violated military law by undermining morale, discipline, or the chain of command. This move was unprecedented. A sitting senator and a former astronaut, now under military investigation for his political speech and actions while in office. Critics quickly denounced the investigation as a politically motivated attack, arguing it threatened free speech and set a dangerous precedent. Supporters, however, insisted it was necessary to protect the integrity of the military and uphold the rule of law. The legal distinction, Kelly's retired status, became the crux of the case, raising complex questions about the rights and responsibilities of those who have served. The Pentagon's action transformed what began as a political dispute into a full-blown constitutional showdown, with implications that reached far beyond Capitol Hill. The boundaries between military and civilian authority had never been so starkly tested, raising urgent questions about the balance of power in American democracy. The stakes were now national, with the entire country watching to see how this extraordinary confrontation would unfold. At the heart of the investigation is the UCMJ, the foundation of U.S. military law. While it governs active duty personnel, it can also apply to retired officers, like Kelly, who can be recalled for court-martial. Traditionally, this is reserved for serious crimes committed while in uniform, not for political speech as a civilian. The Pentagon claims Kelly's retired status keeps him bound to military conduct rules, even as a senator. They argue his words undermined discipline and brought discredit to the armed forces. Legal experts are divided. Does the UCMJ really reach this far? Critics warn this is a dangerous precedent, using military law to silence political opponents. The case pits First Amendment rights against lingering military obligations. The outcome could redefine the limits of military authority over retired service members in public life. The White House wasted no time amplifying the Pentagon's move. President Trump on Truth Social accused the lawmakers of seditious behavior, even suggesting in historical terms that such acts were once punishable by death. He reposted calls for extreme punishment, drawing outrage for inciting violence against members of Congress. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the video dangerous, demanding accountability. Trump later tried to soften his rhetoric, but doubled down on the seriousness of the alleged offense. The administration framed the investigation as a defense of national security, not just a legal matter. The message was clear: dissent from within the military's own ranks would be met with the harshest scrutiny. The political temperature soared, and the investigation became a partisan flashpoint. Senator Kelly responded with defiance, learning of the investigation not from the Pentagon, but from social media. He called the probe a political intimidation tactic, vowing not to be silenced. "I've given too much to this country to be bullied by those who care more about power than the Constitution," he declared. Democratic allies rallied to his side. Senator Rubengallego called the investigation baseless garbage, and Minority Leader Schumer accused Trump of using the Pentagon as a political weapon. The response was fierce, framing the investigation as an attack on democracy itself. Republicans, meanwhile, condemned the original video as reckless, deepening the partisan divide. The battle lines were drawn: free speech and oversight versus loyalty and discipline. The confrontation was now a national spectacle. The Kelly investigation marks a rare and dangerous crossing of lines in American politics. Using the UCMJ against a sitting senator for political speech is virtually unprecedented. It raises questions about civilian control of the military, the separation of powers, and the rights of retired officers. Critics see it as weaponizing military law to silence dissent. Supporters say no one is above the law. The case could chill other veterans in public life, fearing prosecution for speaking out. The administration argues the law applies to all. Opponents call it selective punishment. The outcome could set a precedent for how far military authority can reach into civilian government. The stakes: the balance between military discipline and democratic freedom. At the heart of the controversy is a fundamental question. What happens when duty to the Constitution collides with the chain of command? U.S. military doctrine requires service members to refuse illegal orders, an oath to the Constitution, not to any leader. Kelly and his colleagues reminded troops of this duty, invoking a core American principle. The administration saw this as undermining discipline, especially in a politically charged moment. The debate isn't new, but the context, publicly warning of potential illegal orders from the commander-in-chief, made it explosive. The conflict is about two visions of duty: obedience versus constitutional loyalty. The answer will shape the boundaries of military and civilian authority for years to come. The nation is left to grapple with where the ultimate line of loyalty should be drawn. As of November 25, 2025, the investigation is just beginning, with the nation watching closely. The Pentagon's next steps could trigger a constitutional crisis, especially if a court-martial is pursued. Kelly's legal team would challenge military jurisdiction over a sitting senator, potentially sending the case to the Supreme Court. The outcome could redefine the relationship between the military, Congress, and the law. Politically, both parties are using the case to rally their bases, deepening the culture war over patriotism and power. The investigation is a test of American democracy under pressure. It forces a reckoning with the meaning of the oath to the Constitution, for those in uniform and those in office. The nation's principles and its future are on trial.